Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, first off, you're going to notice my voice is really weak in this video today. I've been dealing with some sinus drainage from just allergies. I feel okay, but my voice has suffered. So bear with me. We're going to try to get through this video today and share with you news about a new piece of equipment for the shop that I picked up recently, which is this weld positioner. Now, first off, let me just go ahead and get it out there. Yes, this is not what I would consider vintage machinery, which is what my channel is all about. Um, but it's something that I felt like I just had to do in this particular case. I've been looking for a weld positioner now for quite some time, and I've honestly been looking for an old vintage one that I could bring into the shop and get up and going. Unfortunately, they just don't seem to be very available in this area, at least used ones. And the ones that I could find were just worn slap out beyond really even being able to rescue with much, without having to do a whole lot of work to them. So I started looking for new options, and I found out very quickly that what I would consider to be the higher end, really quality American made machines were quite expensive. And for my shop, I'm not a welder. I'm more of a machinist. I restore machinery. This is something that I would use occasionally in my shop. I've got a job that I'm about to do that I'm going to need something like this. I've needed them in the past, but it's not something that's going to see daily use or even weekly or monthly use. It's just occasional use in my shop. And I ended up deciding to go with an import brand. And after doing some research and looking around, I ended up going with this particular unit here. This made by Vevor, Vevor, a word that means nothing. Cool little fact if you don't know it. In order to list products on Amazon, you have to have a brand name. And because brand names, there's so many different brands out there, it's really hard to register a name that has any meaning to it. So a lot of these smaller companies, particularly the Chinese stuff, they have just gone in there and registered names that mean absolutely nothing. They just put random letters together to come up with words. And I think that that's pretty much the case here with Vevor. I'm not sure how they pronounce it even. But they do make a lot of tools and equipment stuff. They've got a pretty big selection of stuff. You can go to their website at vevor.com, or you can go on Amazon. You can see a lot of their stuff on there. It is made in China, as the crate said that it was delivered in, made in China. And again, goes against a little bit of my better judgment here, guys. I like quality tools and quality equipment, and you can get stuff out of China that's good, but most stuff that comes out of China is not the greatest in the world. So I did not do an unboxing on this. I will say that it came in a wooden crate. Uh, if you call that a wooden crate, some very cheap, flimsy plywood held together on the edges. It had some plywood on the base where you can get the forks up underneath it. One side was ripped off. When it arrived in the FedEx truck, it was laying over on its side, but it was bolted down to the bottom, and it seems to have survived shipment okay. There was a little bit of damage on it, but nothing of any significance. There's a little plastic cover that covers this timer up, and it was pretty messed up. But that was about it. I mean, I'm not going to say it was terrible. First impressions, looking at this, you know, again, quality's not the greatest in the world, but I would say just looking at it, quality is probably adequate for someone like me that's going to use it occasionally. If this was being used in a professional welding shop where it was being used 8 hours a day, 5, 7 days a week, I don't know how well it would hold up over the long term, but at its price point, I think it was a bargain. At the time of me shooting this video in spring of 2023, its price was $618.99. Not, dirt cheap, but when you compare it to what other welding positioners that are, made by American companies and stuff like that, it's at least half the price, if not more than that. And again, that was a criteria that I needed in this particular case. I did not need to invest a lot of money in something that I'm just not going to use a whole lot, but will see occasional use. So, well, like I said, this is not an unboxing video. I've already put it together. I do want to kind of show you a few things that I noticed on this while I was putting it together, the good, bad, and the ugly. And, we'll go from there. And I'm going to try to test it out and see how it works today. So first off, the good. Well, like I mentioned before, it appears to be fairly stable, solidly made. This isn't the thickest metal in the world, but I think it's more than adequate. They could have cut some corners and made some of the stuff a little bit lighter duty than they did. So it's not in terrible condition by any means at all. The welding on here, it looks pretty good. I can't complain about it. I'm not a welder. I'm sure a lot of welders out there would probably say that they can do a lot better than that, but that's not a bad weld in my opinion. So some things that I noticed that I'm really not crazy about. Look down here where they cut this miter. Yeah, no real grinding in here. That's some pretty sharp corners in there. That's a potential for someone to hurt themselves. I'm really kind of surprised they didn't take the 10 seconds it would have required to run an angle grinder in there and just kind of clean that up. I may end up doing that myself because I don't want to hurt myself. So yeah, they didn't pay attention to some of the details on here. Let me look at a couple other things that was a little bit concerning, I guess. Maybe not concerning, but maybe didn't stand out as the greatest in the world. So another thing I noticed is, well, first off, this whole unit, there's a crank back here on the back, and you can rotate this to whatever angle you want it at. Notice right there, a pretty good amount of slop in it. Not crazy about that. Uh, you know, I could live with the slop. I just wish that they had put maybe some clamps on here where you could clamp this thing. When you get it to the position you want it, you kind of clamp it in place rather than just kind of letting gravity hold it in place. Not too crazy about that. The other thing I noticed is they have this nice little scale on the side here to tell you what angle you're at. There's no pointer in there. This little dial back here is moving, but I can't tell what it's pointing to. So, that scale is pretty much useless without a pointer in there. Don't know if it was missing or just not there. Up on the top, it has a little 3-jaw chuck to mount your work in. And first impression, again, I'm a machinist. I'm used to having a chuck like you put on a lathe. And I'm like, man, that looks cheap. I'm not sure that I like that. But as I play around with it, you kind of got these quick adjusts using this lever on the bottom. It looks like it works pretty good. I mean, again, we're not using this on a lathe. We're not doing precision machining. We're just holding a piece in place. Again, probably adequate. One thing I noticed is, this on this chuck, you got it where you can grip it on the inside. If you run these in, you could put a piece of tubing on here, grip it on the outside, pulling it out and hold it in place. But I noticed that, these got these holes drilled and tapped in the jaws, and all I can assume is there's a block that goes in here that you can put in here to give you a little bit wider base. So if you need something that's bigger than what these things will do, you can pick up another 2 inches in diameter based off of this inside if you just bolt on a little block in there. Didn't come with it. So again, not a major deal for me because I'm a machinist. I can make those if I need them. But when you see something like that, you kind of expect there's something that goes there, and in this case, didn't come with it. So maybe you can order those separately. I just don't know. Another thing that I've honestly found disappointing in this is the owner's manual. And notice up here it says, read these instructions before installing, operating, or servicing this product. Okay, let's read it here. So we open it up, and basically it says here to look and make sure you got all your parts when it comes. Okay, is there a list of everything that's supposed to be in there? No, So I don't know what was supposed to come with it to make sure it was all there, but I'm supposed to check and see if everything's there. And if it's damaged, it said to contact the shipper. Don't contact them, contact the shipper and file a claim. Okay. So we got the machine specifications here, all the information as far as dimensions and power input. Yeah, great. Don't know that I really need to do there. Here's your dimensions, the control panel. Not a whole lot of information on there. It doesn't even really completely go over the actual thing. There's a timer on here it doesn't talk about at all. It says you got a power switch, auto feed. I mean, it just describes it pretty much the same information that's printed on there. I mean, it's just duplicated. There is a troubleshooting guide. I don't know how useful that's going to be. Then the illustration of the control PCB adjustment. Yeah, I don't think I've got this on mine. I'm not sure what that is. Control schematic diagram, great. Where are the instructions on how to put it together? Because I did have to put it together. There are none. Zero, nothing. Fortunately, there's not a lot to it. And if you have any mechanical aptitude at all, you probably won't have any problem figuring out how to put this thing together. But there's zero instructions in there. There's zero instructions on how to operate it. There's not even a picture of what it's supposed to look like when it's fully assembled. I had to go to their website actually for one thing, the little bracket that you can mount your welder into. There was nothing in there about how to put it together, so I had to actually go look at the pictures on their website and hope that that was correct. Again, you can kind of figure it out, but it'd been nice if there had been some instructions in here. Another thing I'll notice on the back of this, you had a couple places to put some terminals into. One of them goes to the motor on the thing, one of them goes to the foot control, and there's one that says it goes to the welder. Again, no information in the manual on this, but the nice thing is that these will only plug into one option. One of them I think has 2 pins, one has 3 pins, and one of them has 4 pins. So you really you can't get it plugged into the wrong one. But this one here, welder, it came with this, and it basically just has this little stub with 2 leads coming out of it. You can plug this in here, and I have no information at all about what this is used for. Now, what I think this is for, in fact, I'm almost positive it's for, is you can basically wire this into your welder, and like on a MIG gun, when you pull that trigger, it creates a circuit, and that basically lets the machine know. And you can, if you get the adapter to go to your welder, you can run a cable over there, and whenever you hit the foot pedal on this and start turning, it'll basically turn the welder on either your TIG torch or your MIG welder or whatever. That's what I'm assuming it's for. But again, no information at all about how it works, about what the voltage is coming out of that to make sure it's compatible with your welder or anything else. So I'm going to play around with that. I could see where that could be a handy feature, but it'd be nice if there was some information about it. So I just did a lot of nitpicking on this thing. Bottom line though, when you really get down to the end of this, is there anything on here that is just a total red flag? This is a no starter for me. This is, total piece of junk. Don't even want to touch it. It's little things. Yeah, there would be some things that would be really nice if they had just taken a little bit extra effort. But honestly, guys, this is what I commonly see on most of the cheap tools and stuff that come out of China these days. If you go to Harbor Freight or any place like that, this is pretty much what you have come to expect. And I'll say this too, there's a place for it. Again, for a professional, someone that is using their tools on a daily basis, probably be better off to spend the money on something a little bit higher quality. But again, for the homeowner, occasional user, someone, again, in my case, I'm not a welder. I'm not out here welding every day. I have welders. I use my welders, but I just use them occasionally, and that's kind of how this will be. So I'm hoping that it'll hold up over time, and time will tell. And if this thing fails on me in the first couple of uses, that's a big problem. If this thing lasts for 5, 10 years, I probably got my money out of it. So we'll just have to see how well it holds up over time. But I think it's going to be fine. I really do. Again, for occasional use. One other thing I'll comment, this particular unit, I would say it's portable. It is heavy. I was able to pick it up off the floor, off the little packing crate, and put it up on the bench by myself. It was a bit of a struggle by myself. It'd have been a lot easier if I'd had one person helping me, but it is doable. So I think that's a nice plus for it as well. If you are needing to take it off-site or something like that. But enough talking. Let's try it out and see how it works. So we got our control unit over on the side. I'll turn on and the power turns on. One thing that you'll probably start noticing right away is there's a timer down here on the bottom. This is counting up in seconds and then minutes. So we go minutes and seconds. And from what I understand, again, there's no information in the manual about this, but you can program this so that based on time, notice my turntable is rotating up here, it will stop. So you can go down here and you can, right now it's set for 34 minutes and 22 seconds. It'll time out. So tell you what I'm going to do, and you can hit the reset button and that resets your timer. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it off. Well, I got to have it on to do it here. And I'm going to set this down. All right, I got it going here again. I got it on 5 seconds. All right, it did turn off there. I think it has to do with this lock button. So I'm going to reset. Let's see if it goes now okay, it's turning off. I don't know. I guess I had to reset it was the problem. That was probably what it was. I needed to reset the timer. I've changed it down there without resetting it. But notice it stops, reset, it goes. Now, what is that useful for? So if you're welding something, you can, once you get your speed set, you can time how long it takes to make a revolution or a quarter revolution or whatever you are working on, and you can have it automatically stop. So I'm going to be using this to weld up some shafts. I have some old cane mill shafts. In fact, let me show you one. You can see on this that we got a shaft and then it's worn at a taper on the bottom. This should be a straight shaft all the way up and down. This has had significant wear over the years, and I'm restoring these. I need to weld these up and then turn them back down on the lathe nice and smooth. So that's what I'm going to be using this welder for, is to basically put beads all the way around it. And what I can do is I can set this timer. It'll make a revolution. When it comes around, it'll stop. I can move my welder up one notch, send it around, make another round, and so on. And so I think that's a nice feature in it. Another thing, if you were welding, say, just a flange together, and you could program it to make a full revolution. When it got around, it would stop. You would change your part out, put a new one in, hit your reset button, and away it goes. A couple other features on here. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and put that on a longer timer there. You have a variable speed control button here, or where you can adjust how fast it turns. That's wide open, which that's fast for welding. So, but it'll go all the way down. It is turning right there, very, very slow. So you got a pretty wide range of speeds in there. There's a switch here for auto or foot pedal. So right now I have it in auto mode. If I put it on the foot pedal, there is a foot pedal that comes with this. And whenever I push that down, it will go. Whenever I let up, it'll stop. So if you want to just manually control it, you can use the foot pedal. This reverses it. Let me just go ahead and turn it on. So this is, obviously going in one direction. That goes in the other direction. I think it's interesting to note that there are errors on here. This is showing it going in that direction, but it's backwards. Not a big deal, but it'd be nice if it was more accurate. But that's pretty much the control panel. All right, guys, I'm set up over here and going to try to see if I can weld with this thing. I'm just kind of experimenting. I don't have much to go on as far as instructions, so a little bit of trial and error here. I do have my thing set up here with this torch thing on the top. I can kind of pull this in and out. You can crank that down. So the idea here is that as you're using this, you just move it back a little bit at a time on each time around. We're going to try that out and try to make a turn. First thing I'm going to have to do is kind of get my speed set. I don't have the automatic start and stop, so I'm going to have to manually trigger this with my hand. It'd be probably better if I could use the foot pedal and just turn it on whenever I start turning it, but I don't have the connector to connect to my welder right now. So we'll have to see how that goes. We're just going to try this out and just see how it goes. All right, first round. I'm obviously going way too slow. So we're going to speed it up a little bit more. I'm going to move my welding rod back a little bit and try another round. Well, guys, I'm getting the hang of it. Basically, I make a round and I try to shoot that wire right down into the root. And I did slow my wire speed down just a little bit, but I'm building up a nice little layer in there. And it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. We'll make a round here. I know you probably be blasted out by the light, but you can kind of see what's going on. All right, once I make a round, I'll just back my head out until, again, I'm kind of pointing right down into that root. And away we go again. Rinse and repeat. I'm going to continue on. My welds are looking better and better. I may still slow down my wire feed a little bit. Got down to about 300 inches per minute, which is what the machine is, a little bit below what the machine recommends for this particular thickness and amperage that I'm running, but we're going to try it. A little bit runny out there toward the end, but I think that's a good weld. Like I said, we're going to take that to the lathe, at least when I do them for real here, and we're going to turn all that buildup down. That's the whole thing. I'm just trying to put material back on here. So, yeah, I think it's going to work. Well, guys, it appears to be doing the job. My welding over here, I probably still need to play around with my settings. Again, I'm not a professional welder. I can weld things together and make them stick and do a good job, but I'm by no means a pro at welding, and I'm probably going to be calling a friend to help me dial this thing in a little bit. But overall, I'm happy with the results. I can tell you that I've welded up a bunch of these cane mill rollers before that I'm going to be doing in an upcoming video. And the way I was doing it, where I was having to kind of turn things by hand, do a little bit at a time, it was really ugly. A lot uglier than this. So this is a huge improvement. One thing I do want to do is, once this cools down, is take it over to the lathe, clean it off, and see how good of a solid surface I've got in there. In fact, we may tag that onto the end of this video just so you guys can see, how it's doing. And again, I have no doubt that I can improve my settings on my welder to make this better, but first pass, first attempt, I'm happy with my results. So, after using it, overall impressions, yeah, I think it's going to be adequate for what I need, for what I'm going to be doing. I do think that getting this thing wired into my welder where I don't have to manually hold the button down while I'm doing this will be a big improvement. I'm going to see if I can get the right connector to go onto my machine and find the specs to make sure that it's the right voltage or whatever. I think we'll be fine though with that once we get that going. And then whenever I hit my foot pedal and this thing starts turning, it'll just automatically turn the MIG gun on, which will simplify things greatly. So yeah, I'm good with it. For a Chinese machine, for relatively inexpensive, again, it was a little over $600, but in the grand scheme of things, that's just on the cheap side for something like this. So yeah, I think it's going to work, and I think it's going to be adequate. So there you go. I'll clean that up on the lathe and let you guys look at it. And again, that's more my welding skills than the weld positioner itself. If it fails or passes, but still we'll kind of make sure it's doing what I want it to do. Well, guys, that turned out beautiful. I got one little inclusion out here on the end where it had been kind of rolled over on this, so that was kind of thick. But other than that, I mean, it turned out good. That thing's hot. It got wrapped up in a rag, but I'm very happy with how that turned out. And I think we're ready to try this for a real one over here. We're just needing to build up some material to be able to turn these things back down true again. Well, there we go. A quick review of this weld positioner. Time will tell how it holds up, but at least new out of the box, it seems to do what it needs to do. And yeah, I think it's going to work all right for what I need for it to do. So I'm very happy with it. We're going to move on. Got one of my cane mill rollers in here. This is my next thing. You can see the taper on there. We're going to weld up this whole journal, turn it down. I'll actually weld up both sides and just do both of them while I'm at it. And I got about 6 of these that need to be done on a couple of different cane mills. And this is pretty common. You got a lot of pitting in these shafts, a lot of wear in these shafts. We just need to get good metal in there again. It's more than what I could really build up with spray welding. So we're going to just weld it up and turn it down. That's the game plan. So we'll be doing this in a future video. But for now, that's going to be a wrap on the review of this. And like I said, you'll probably be seeing it in use over time. And we'll see how she holds up. But I'm happy with what I've seen so far. Guys, with that, we're going to sign off. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up and comments are greatly appreciated. Big, huge thank you for all the supporters supporting the site out there. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up and comments greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon to get notifications when new videos are posted. And with that, guys, we're going to sign off. We'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.